make junk disappear.
A celebration in Manhattan turns into a deadly shooting. Gunfire erupted late last night in Harlem. One person was killed, 8 others injured. Police are now asking the community to help track down the suspects. The governor signs a new measure meant to bolster the right to vote. The package of voting law changes, bans deceptive voter practices, and establishes an elections database. As early voting continues, we have a preview of New York One's next primary debate between the Republican candidates for governor. We'll tell you what to look for during tonight's showdown. And events being held all across the 5 boroughs today to mark Juneteenth, now observed as a federal holiday. News All Day starts right now. Good afternoon. You are watching News All Day. I'm Shannan Ferry in for Rochelle Boone. Also coming up on today's show, a big online auction happening this afternoon. The highest bidder gets a Nobel Peace Prize. We will tell you where the proceeds are going in just a bit. Let's take a look outside, though. The day started off cool, but temperatures will rise to about 80 degrees and stay mostly sunny this afternoon. Humidity and showers are expected to move in tomorrow evening through Thursday. And then guess what? Summer officially begins tomorrow. We will get a full update from meteorologist Eric Adame shortly. But first, here's Anthony with some of the day's developing stories. A deadly mass shooting unfolds during the early morning hours in Manhattan. Now, we have been following this developing story out of Harlem, where police say shots started firing at a party. Our Chloe McGowan is at the scene with new information from police. Hi, Chloe.
Hey there, Shannon. After what should have been a long holiday weekend, it ends in bloodshed here in Harlem at 1-800-577-TIPS. That's the latest here in Harlem. I'm Chloe McGowan. Send it back to you.
Yeah, please do call that number if you have any information. Chloe, thank you. There was another shooting last night in the neighborhood. That time, a 50-year-old man was shot in the leg and taken to the hospital in stable condition. But the violence also stretched well beyond Harlem. In addition to the mass shooting, there were at least half a dozen others. In separate incidents in the Bronx, a 25-year-old woman was shot in the shoulder and a 30-year-old man was shot in the arm. Both were taken to the hospital and they are expected to recover. In Brooklyn, meantime, a 28-year-old shot in the torso in a drive-by shooting. And then on Staten Island, 3 people were shot at a party. A 22-year-old woman was shot in the lower back. 1 man was shot in the stomach and another man shot in the buttocks. So a lot to cover. All 3 of them were treated at Richmond University Medical Center and no arrests in that case. The governor today gave her final approval to a bill meant to ensure voting rights in New York. The bill is named for the late civil rights leader and Congressman John Lewis. And as State House reporter Zach Fink will explain, and he is joining us now, this is aimed, Zach, at addressing a 9-year-old Supreme Court decision.
Yeah, Shannon, that's exactly right. In 2013, the actual primary is on Tuesday, the 28th. Shannon?
Yeah, and Zach, we have been following the early voting and everything leading up to that actual primary. You talked about how she plans to be out there, out and about, talking to people in shops and diners. How visible has she been up until now, though?
So, Hochul has done a lot of governmental. All the public polling we've seen show her with a very strong lead over her 2 opponents.
All right, Zach Fink, thanks so much. Stock markets, post offices, government offices, and schools all closed today in observance of Juneteenth. Now, Juneteenth commemorates the events of June 19th, 1865, when the last black enslaved people of the Confederacy were freed in Texas. Last year, President Biden signed legislation to make Juneteenth a federal holiday, and in April, Mayor Adams designated it a paid holiday in New York City. Another day of early voting, as we have been talking about, for the Democratic and Republican primaries. Polls, by the way, open until 5 o'clock this evening. The City Board of Elections says more than 17,000 people in the city have cast ballots since early voting started over the weekend on Saturday. Voters are choosing candidates for governor, lieutenant governor, and state assembly, along with judges. Early voting is happening every day through Sunday, and of course, primary day, as we've been saying, is next Tuesday. Just go to vote.nyc if you want to find out your polling place. You can also check out our voting guide on the Spectrum News app. And if you want to learn more about some of the candidates before you head to the polls, you can also watch our Republican primary debate for governor. That is tonight at 7 o'clock. New York One political anchor Errol Lewis and Spectrum News' political anchor Susan Arbetter moderating together. You can also, of course, watch that on the Spectrum News app. Starting Wednesday, young kids will be able to get a COVID vaccine at city-run sites. This comes after the CDC officially recommended children 6 months to 5 years old get the shot. The CDC director signed off on the decision. Roughly 18 million kids across the country are now eligible. Now, there will be a number of sites around the city available for walk-ins and also appointments. And you can go to that website on your screen or call that number if you want more information for locations and scheduling. Eric is back now with a check of your forecast, and we've been enjoying the dry weather that we've been having. It's not going to last forever, though. All good things coming to an end here.
Yeah, it's interesting because over the weekend it wasn't just dry; it was also kind of cool.
It was even jacket weather,
a
light
little
jacket
chilly
weather.
at times. Yeah. Now we're warming things up, but with the warmth comes some moisture and eventually some showers. But before they get here, we do have a beautiful day in progress, so enjoy it. The unsettled weather arrives really later tomorrow, most of tomorrow weekend of summer, and then of course while I'm over there setting up my graphics, I'll also be reading up on the first day of summer because apparently I need a reminder.
But tomorrow, I know you and John text every morning to talk about the weather.
Already been on it.
Tomorrow, is that a special day for the texting with John because it's solstice?
Oh yeah, we're going to be celebrating the
Celebrating, okay.
Absolutely.
I'll be looking for that. Splitting up police officers, the mayor is trying to tackle safety in the subway system with a new NYPD patrol plan that he says will cover more ground. After several fiery hearings, anxious tenants of rent-stabilized apartments and landlords sharing their thoughts with us as they await a final decision on rent hikes. And later, we are answering all of your questions ahead of New York One's debate tonight between the 4 Republican candidates for governor. That's in today's Political Buzz when News All Day continues. Some changes to underground safety plans. Police officers will soon be doing solo patrols on the subway. Now, the mayor says splitting up officers will allow them to actually cover more ground and therefore make riders feel safer. But what do riders think about this? New York One's Victoria Manna is at the Atlantic Avenue Barclays Center Station talking to riders about these changes. Victoria.
Yes, Shannon, most commuters that spoke.
Well, the time has come. The Rent Guidelines Board is scheduled to hold its final vote tomorrow on rent increases for rent-stabilized apartments. And if approved, that would set the stage for the most significant rent hikes in years. Louis Finley spoke with a tenant in the Bronx and a landlord in Manhattan about what's going through their heads before this big decision.
They're not doing the repairs like they're supposed to.
Tina Holloway says she fights her landlord for quality of life repairs and her rent-stabilized 2-bedroom Bronx apartment.
And then this child missing.
But despite the battles, she wants to stay another decade.
I don't want to move. I'm too old for this.
But if the Rent Guidelines Board allows the landlord to raise the rent, she might not be able to afford the increase.
Where's this at? I'm still looking for it.
Louis Finley, New York One.
Yeah, there's always a tug of war between the tenants and the landlords. All right, Louis, thank you. Well, a great way to encourage young New Yorkers to read this summer, the New York Public Library giving away 500,000 books to kids and teens. Now, free books will be available at any of the library's 92 locations in Manhattan, the Bronx, and Staten Island. Anyone 18 years old or younger can participate in the summer at the library program. It aims to keep kids learning throughout the summer break. Now, in addition to the giveaway, the New York Public Library is also hosting story times, reading challenges, and writing challenges throughout the summer. Here's a look outside on this sunny afternoon. What a gorgeous shot that is, right? Temperatures are warmer than they were over the weekend. There was some wind. Things were feeling kind of chilly. So nicer temperatures today, I would say, peaking at around 80, and we'll settle through the 70s this evening. Here's that 7-day forecast. Clouds increase tomorrow with a few evening showers. On and off showers, though, are more likely Wednesday and Thursday. And then temperatures warm back into the 80s by the end of the week, just in time for the weekend. If you are planning a 4th of July barbecue, be prepared to dig a little bit deeper into your wallet. flaming hot inflation kicking up the cost of all of your barbecue staples. And get ready to boogie oogie oogie on your roller skates. We have a sneak peek of the brand new Disco Oasis. That is at the Woolman Rink when News All Day returns. How much fun does that look? Disco Oasis has officially opened in Central Park. Woolman Rink transformed into a roller skating and disco paradise with live DJs, performances, obviously also lots of dancing and skating. By the way, this will be open every Wednesday through Sunday until October, so you still have plenty of time to check it out. Also, if you want to be cool like our News All Day team, take a look at them. They got a chance to check it out, and they had a lot of fun.
Your sports brought to you by BetMGM.
Okay, the Yankees in Tampa Bay tonight to face their rivals again. They are coming off a tough loss in Toronto. Yesterday, the Bombers led 8-3 in the sixth, but the Blue Jays rallied all the way back. They took a 10-8 lead on a 3-run homer in the seventh. The Jays went on to win 10-9, snapping New York's 9-game winning streak. But the Yankees still lead Toronto by 11 games in the AL East. At Citi Field yesterday, the Mets had a 1-0 lead in the top of the seventh when reliever Seth Lugo served up a grand slam. That gave the Marlins all they'd need. Miami wins 6-2. The series finale is happening this afternoon, and tomorrow they visit Houston to face the Astros. And in golf, England's Matt Fitzpatrick won the U.S. Open tournament in Massachusetts. He took a two-shot lead with the birdie putt on the 15th hole. Then he had to sweat it out as Will Zalatoris just missed a birdie putt on the 18th hole, which would have forced a playoff. This is Fitzpatrick's first Grand Slam championship. From summer travel to summer foods, Karina Mitchell telling us all about the latest economic impacts in today's Money on One report.
Markets are
coming up, a joyous celebration of Black fatherhood in Brooklyn as Father's Day and Juneteenth coincide. And later tonight, another New York One debate for governor, this time for the Republican hopefuls. We have a full preview for you from our very own political director. That is coming up next. Welcome back to News All Day, everybody. Let's go to Anthony now for the latest on some of the day's developing stories.
Good afternoon, everyone. Here's what's happening. Department of Correction officials say another inmate has died while in.
The four Republican candidates for governor face off in tonight's New York One debate. And with Election Day coming up in just a few days and polls already open for early voting, this is really one of the last chances that candidates have to make their case to voters. Bob Hart joining me now with more on what we can expect for tonight. So, I mean, what are you really looking to see? What's going to stand out for you?
Well, I think there will be fireworks because this is a very competitive primary. If the last debate is, any indication, I think these guys are going to really mix it up. It's sort of a jump ball. Lee Zeldin is the Republican, I'd say, establishment candidate. But it's just, this is such a weird year that I think that any of the challengers also have a chance against him tonight. I think there's going to be a lot of back and forth.
And what do you think that Republican voters right now are most concerned about? We have heard really from all of the candidates, a lot of them hammering in on crime.
Yeah, crime for sure, and also the pocketbook issues. We just had Anthony talking about gas prices. I think that's on the minds of a lot of voters. How can we whip inflation now, so to speak? And I think those two things will be on the voters' minds: crime and the bottom line.
Let's talk about Andrew Giuliani. How much or does the name recognition matter here?
It definitely matters. I saw a poll last week. Almost the majority of New York voters, Democrats and Republicans, the only two people a majority knew were the governor, which isn't surprising, Hochul, and Giuliani. And I think it's because of his father. It's not because of all of his work in the Trump White House. It's a very prominent name.
I also want to get your thoughts on early voting. It has been going on for a couple of days now. We don't have the best numbers, but we don't normally have the best numbers.
So I crunched the numbers just before getting over here. So 99.5% of eligible voters, either registered Democrats and Republicans, haven't voted yet. It's only 17,000 people voted in the city over the weekend. That number will obviously go up every day, but it's low. And I sort of think it reflects that. I think a lot of New Yorkers don't even know that the primary day is later this month. And that's sort of like why it's good to have these debates. It sort of wakes people up out of an early summer slumber. So it's not surprising, like you said, in past mayoral elections and races for governor, the early voting has been low. So presidential was high. So it's not, I'm not that surprised, but it's still a little disappointing.
We'll see how those numbers go as the days goes on. Dave, but what do you think? Does this have a chance to benefit anybody in particular if you have a low turnout in a race like this?
Well, that's where you got to get a little worried if you're like Lee Zeldin, because suddenly if there's really low turnout, like an Andrew Giuliani can sneak up on you. And it's with Governor Hochul, I think you want lots of Democrats to vote because of the name recognition. But I think if you're Lee Zeldin, and for a while we didn't know if he was going to debate or not, I think it makes sense because that way his bet is the more Republicans who vote, the better. I think that's his plan. A debate like this helps him.
Let's switch gears here because we had another mass shooting in Harlem, a tragic situation, and this all comes as we have been waiting for the Supreme Court decision about guns. This could actually make it easier to have guns in New York.
It could make it much easier. You're absolutely right. We of course have seen the leaked draft opinion about the abortion case. We don't know exactly where the judges all stand on New York's concealed carry law. But looking at the questioning, it seems like there's a majority there who's very interested in changing our law. So if they were to throw it out, it could be open season for a while until the legislature can come up with a less onerous law. But yeah, it could suddenly be much easier for New Yorkers to buy and carry handguns. Right now in New York City, it's almost impossible.
What does that do for someone like Mayor Adams and him trying to get this gun problem under control? How difficult could that make it?
Oh, it's a nightmare. I mean, think of the people, your neighbors. I think of my neighbors. Some of whom I love, some of whom I don't love. They shouldn't all have guns. I mean, it's just common sense. I've known them for years, and I'm sure there's probably some people on your block. You're like, that probably wouldn't be a great idea if that person was walking around carrying a gun. So this would just be a nightmare for law enforcement and the mayor. Clearly, I think the hope would be if it gets thrown out, that the Supreme Court at least has an opening to say, hey, well, maybe there's some other law that could get passed.
Sure.
Because that's, I think, you might even see a special session of the legislature, depending on what this decision says.
Speaking of, you mentioned abortion, and I just want to give our viewers a sense because we keep talking about waiting for this decision, waiting for this decision. Just explain for our viewers, why have we been waiting for so long for these big decisions?
Well, usually the bigger decisions are at the end of the term for the Supreme Court. I remember the gay marriage, the Obamacare, they're typically at the end. It's sort of like the dramatic flair from the court. In terms of the Supreme Court with abortion, the reason why we expect Roe v. Wade to be overturned is Politico reported they got their hands on a draft where it looked like that was it for Roe v. Wade. And we should remind people in New York, the law of the land is different. This would allow states to say abortion's illegal, largely illegal in every state. That's not the situation here in New York, but in many other states, like in Jackson, Mississippi, where this whole case originated. That's the only place in all of Mississippi where you can get an abortion is in Jackson. So in some states, this would be very, very severe ruling for people trying to get abortions.
Yeah, it would absolutely affect women in other states tremendously. And the governor has pointed out that they want to protect women in those other states and make it easy to come here if this does happen. We will be watching that closely. And again, want to plug to watch this debate because that is something else that we will be watching closely. Errol Lewis, Susan Arbetter hosting this tonight. Bob, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, following a week of devastating flooding, Yellowstone National Park will partially reopen this week. You might have seen the images. The park has been hit by record rainfall and flooding since last weekend, prompting officials to close all entrances. Now, to ensure it does not get overwhelmed with visitors all at once, cars with license plates ending in an odd number can only visit on odd days and vice versa for plates with even numbers. The National Weather Service says rainfall in the area is 400% higher this month than the average for June. That's caused the Yellowstone River to swell to its highest level in more than 100 years. Eric, what is going through your head when you see something like this? Help our viewers make sense of these images.
Yeah, I mean, this is really one of those symptoms of climate change. This is a part of the country that has been seeing extreme drought. So it's either one extreme or the other. You get one too many of those thunderstorms developing over the initial weekend of summer. It's also this weekend is the Pride March, and we're still several days away, but everyone's, always wondering what's the weather going to be like when I'm out there doing whatever it is you have planned. And right now it looks like it's going to be the 80s and dry, Shannon.
It looks good. And by the way, tomorrow, a lot of people also, they mark the solstice. There's yoga in Times Square. There are always events to mark the start of summer. So we'll be following that as well. Eric, thanks so much. A look at some of the big events happening in the city, celebrating a joint holiday weekend, plus the prestigious Nobel Prize going up for sale. Why this priceless award now has a price tag. Welcome back to News All Day. Here is our picture of the day, and it is a gorgeous one. Columbus Circle, looking nice there. Cool shot looking up Broadway and Central Park West. If you have a picture you'd like to share with us, just use the hashtag NY1Pic on Instagram or Twitter. You might just see it here on New York One. A Russian journalist selling a priceless treasure to help children impacted by the war. This is the Nobel Peace Prize of Dmitry Muratov. He won the award last October for his work exposing corruption and violence in Russia. It was the same year his publication was shut down by the Kremlin. Now the award will be sold to the highest bidder at heritage auctions here in the city. All proceeds going to UNICEF's mission to help children who have fled Ukraine. Experts say the medal could sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars, even millions. Two celebrations merged yesterday, Father's Day and Juneteenth. In Brooklyn, the March of Dads marked both holidays by empowering and uniting Black and brown fathers. Borough reporter Rebecca Greenberg joined the festivities with the dads and their children as they help dispel what they believe is a harmful stereotype.
Exclusively on Spectrum.
Welcome back to News All Day. Eric is back with a final look at the forecast. How's it looking over there?
It is clear for the rest of the afternoon. We did actually have some clouds. I don't know if you noticed it. So just before noon, there were these, just a couple of clouds coming in from the north. Now those clouds have pushed south of the city. You can see them there on the visible satellite, and it is completely clear. I think that's going to stay that way through the rest of the day and well into this evening. There are some clouds out to our west. Full potential, which is what we always want to do, right, Shannan Ferry?
Of course.
So we'll get into the 80s here Friday and into the upcoming weekend.
I heard you use the word humidity. Just
yes.
What you said it like it was a good thing. So I'm just wondering.
Well, I work for a hairspray company, right? I got stock in it. So
this is actually an ad that you're watching.
Yeah,
right
exactly.
Now. All right. So
we're joking, guys. By the way, we're joking.
That was a joke. Okay, not so bad though. We're okay.
Yeah, not so bad.
Eric, thank you. Two friends are finding time to give back after school. Every week they take care of some of the city's furry and scaly friends at an environmental center in Queens. Yeah. Take a look at our New Yorkers of the week.
It's snack time for the geckos at the Alley Pond Environmental Center.
Oh my God, did you see them fight over?
Their waiters for the afternoon, Dylan Shai and Ami Farrell, two 16-year-old girls, are our New Yorkers of the week. Pat Kernan, New York One.
Good job, you guys. All right, that is going to do it for us. I'm Shannan Ferry in for Rochelle Boone today. Thank you so much for being part of our News All Day family. And because you are part of our News All Day family, we'll leave you with a little more from Disco Oasis and Sister Sledge, where the team was out having a good time. Thanks again for watching. Have a wonderful week. See you next time.